Hey y'all, it's Shani with Wild at Heart. This is 5 steps on how to introduce cats and dogs. Whether you already have a dog and you're introducing a new cat, or if you already have a cat and you're introducing a new dog, these are the steps you want to take. You don't want to rush the process because a lot of times that first impression is really important. You don't want to ruin it. So don't rush it. Take your time, follow these steps, and it will work out. Wherever you're getting your dog or your new cat from, you need to verify that they actually like dogs or cats. So if you adopt a dog and the shelter tells you, hey, this dog gets along with cats great, you still need to verify that. You still would want to go through this introduction process and take it slowly because you have no idea how the dog is going to react to the cat and vice versa. This is a huge disclaimer, and so many people surprisingly make this mistake. Never, ever, ever use crates. So don't lock your cat in a crate and allow the dog to approach the crate, and don't lock the dog in the crate and allow the cat to approach the dog, or don't lock both of them in the crates and allow them to kind of approach each other in that way. It is disastrous. An animal can be terrified when they're confined like that, especially when they're being introduced to a new animal. So no crates, ever, ever. Step 1 is setting up the safe room. Now, whoever is new to your family is going into that safe room. So if you're adopting a new cat, then the room is going to be set up for a cat. If you're adopting a new dog, then that room is going to be set up for the dog. You need to make sure that when you bring your new animal home, that the animals never have visual contact. So if you're bringing in a new cat and the cat is in the crate, you need to put your dog away so the cat does not see that dog. Vice versa with the dog. When you're setting up the room for your new cat, you'll want a litter box, food and water bowls, a cat tree, toy scratchers, appropriate hiding places, etc. If you're adding a new dog, the room will be set up for them. Give them some time to settle into their room before moving on to step 2. If your new animal is extremely shy or stressed, then this process is just going to take a little bit longer, and that's okay. Step 2 is scent and room swapping. First, you want to do some simple scent swapping. So you take a clean sock, you wipe down the cat, and then you give that sock to the dog. Then you take another sock, wipe down the dog, and give that sock to the cat. When you're presenting these socks, you don't want to force the sock on them. You just want to leave it in the room so that you can give them time to investigate their scents. When you leave the sock in the room, don't put the sock next to any important resources. So for cats, you don't want to put the sock next to their litter box or their food and their water. Just kind of put it in the center of the room and give them time to investigate that scent. Throughout the day, you want to refresh those scents. So take the same sock, wipe it down on the dog, and vice versa with the cat. You can also take a brush and brush the cat and then brush the dog and then go back to the cat. Only do this if they both like being brushed. If they don't like being brushed, then don't do it. Another thing you can do is swapping blankets. So you can take one of the dog blankets, give it to the cat, and then take one of the cat blankets and give it to the dog. Before you start swapping spaces, you want to make sure that both animals are feeling really confident up to this point. You don't want to force a shy cat out of their safe room until they are ready. And likewise, if you don't have a dog that's super confident, you don't want to force them out of their safe space. So do not start the swapping of spaces until both animals are super confident. Again, you are avoiding visual contact. So if you have a cat in their safe room, you want to either maybe take the dog for a quick walk or put them in a separate area, allow the cat out into the house so they can investigate that area. Perhaps the cat goes into another room so you can close that room off and then take the dog and allow the dog to investigate the cat's room. This can be a little bit tricky, so you want to really be mindful of how your animals are feeling. If they are feeling anxious or scared or they don't want to leave, then just don't do this step. We want to make sure that swapping spaces isn't like a punishment. So if your dog doesn't want to be locked up in a room while the cat is investigating the house, you don't want to do it. So instead, take the dog for a walk, take them for a ride or something that they really, really enjoy. So it's not a punishment. Step 3 is feeding behind a closed door. You want to start at a distance so both animals are still comfortable, usually about 6 feet from the door. Gradually move the bowls closer and closer until the bowls are right by the door. You can also use treats if feeding doesn't work. You are beginning a positive association with your cat and your dog. Now, how quickly you move closer is going to depend on the comfort level of the animal. So if your cat is still extremely nervous, just keep the food far away. We don't want to interrupt how they're eating. Now, only move on to step 4 if step 1 through 3 has worked out wonderfully. Remember, you don't want to rush this. You want to take your time. You want this relationship to work out. Rushing it can cause a lot of problems. So once your animals are confident, however long that takes, then you can move on to the next steps. Step 4 is visual contact with a baby gate. If you have a rather large dog, you might need to stack 2 baby gates on top of each other. This is so it allows them to finally see each other and maybe even make a little bit physical contact. While you're allowing them to make visual contact, you want to do something that they both really like. So maybe that's treats. You're feeding the cat treats, you're feeding the dog treats. So both of them are getting something that's really positive when they're with each other. You want the cat to learn, hey, every time I'm around this dog, I get really awesome things. And for the dog, he's going to think, hey, every time I'm around this cat, I get super yummy treats. I want to be around this cat all the time. One mistake that people make is they get nervous and then they start reprimanding their animals. Let's say the cat hisses and you're like, no. You cannot do any negative reinforcement during these introductions. It has to be all positive. So if your cat hisses, you ignore it and redirect them with a toy or a treat. If your dog barks, you're going to ignore it and redirect them. You certainly don't want to reinforce the barking, but you don't want to use negative reinforcement or any sort of punishment. We want to build that positive association. If you yell at your dog or cat, they will only associate that punishment with each other. Also, don't force or lure them over. Allow them to choose every single interaction with each other. Consent is rad. You also need to remember that this cat may have never met a dog in their life, and the dog may have never met a cat in their life. So everything is so new and exciting. And so I know dogs sometimes get really excited, and that's okay. You can keep these sessions really short. You can start at just 5 minutes because you want it to be super positive. You don't want it to be a nightmare where you're stressed out and you're yelling and everything falls apart. So keep it short, and then gradually you can increase the length of time. So maybe you start at 5 minutes and then you take an hour break, and then you go for 7 minutes, and then you take a 2-hour break, and then you go for 10 minutes. And eventually maybe you'll be able to have those baby gates up and the door open all day long. Just remember to be super positive about it, calm and happy. This is supposed to be a really fun time for everyone involved. And then if this goes well, then you can move on to the next step. Step 5 is leash intros. If the baby gate interactions have gone well, you can start letting them see each other while the dog is on a leash. You could even eventually use a long line leash. It's really important for cats to have escape routes. So while you have your dog on a leash, I would keep the baby gates up, but raise them just high enough so a cat can get under the gate and low enough where a dog can't get under the gate. This is going to allow the cat to run back into the room if they feel frightened. Another thing that's really important is you want to have a lot of cat trees or elevated areas where cats can get up high and away from the dog. Take advantage of the fact that cats use their world vertically. When cats are up high, they feel super confident. That's how they're able to view their world. While doing these leash interactions, again, keep it super, super positive for everyone involved, especially your dog, because they're the one that's going to be confined on a leash. So you want to be doling out those treats, giving them a lot of praise, and then likewise with your cat, you want to give them a ton of space. So don't force interactions. Don't take the dog over to the cat. All you're doing is you have the dog on the leash, you're allowing the cat to move freely and you're allowing the dog to move freely, but you're not allowing the dog to chase the cat, but but you're also not allowing the cat to approach him in an aggressive way if the dog feels uncomfortable. These sessions can be as long or short as you think. You always want to end on a good note, and you always want it to be super positive for everyone involved. Another really important thing is check in with yourself before doing these sessions. Are you feeling nervous or anxious or afraid? Just stop. Take a deep breath. Know that you got this. If you feel super anxious, your animals are going to feel anxious. So you need to feel calm, confident, and positive about this new loving relationship. If you have any further questions, please comment below. I think most dogs and cats can live harmoniously, but it's really important that we not have any expectations. I know we see videos where dogs are cuddling with cats, and we all want that. But again, if we have expectations, we're just going to be disappointed. There's going to be some relationships where they're super snuggly and cuddly, and there's going to be some relationships where they just tolerate each other. And that's okay, as long as they're not fighting or your animals aren't miserable. Either way, they are coexisting together, and as long as they're happy, they're safe, and they're taken care of, it's great. It's wonderful. So just try not to have a lot of expectations and realize that with any relationship, it takes time. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep cats wild at heart, set them up for success, and encourage them to accept some canines in their life.